Hi everybody, today it's Makaya here and I will be answering questions 1 and 2 for the case brief presentation slide. So I just wanted to start off by telling you guys what this case is about. This case is about one of the biggest 5 accounting firms at its time. In the year 2001, it went through a big scandal, which we're going to discuss and break down here today. So one of the biggest accounting firms, considered the biggest 5. So before, the scandal between Arthur Andersen and Co., the accounting firms were the big 5 until the downfall of Andersen and Co. It is now seen as the big 4, and I will list a few of the big 4 right here. The firm got caught in a major scandal involving Enron, which was charged with obstruction of justice for destroying documents that were part of Enron's audit during the federal investigation. Now we're going to talk about why this case is important. This case is relatively important because it shows how corporate accountability, along with ethical responsibility, can affect the public's trust in financial systems. It holds a key of legal precedent for what is considered corporate persuasion. Under the circumstances that Arthur Andersen Co. faced, which is obstruction of justice laws, this case was soon overturned due to jury instructions being too broad, which shows how important it is for intent to be proven in such cases like this. Now we're going to discuss the history of this case. The history of Arthur Andersen LLP was one of the world's top accounting firms, as we discussed. It served as Enron's auditor, helping verify financial statements. And in 2001, Enron's massive accounting fraud scandal came to light. Andersen's employees shredded thousands of documents and deleted emails related to Enron's audits, supposedly under the company's document retention policy. The U.S. government accused Andersen of obstruction of justice, claiming they intended to destroy evidence relevant to the future investigation. In 2002, Andersen was found guilty, but in 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned their conviction, ruling that the jury instructions failed to require proof that Andersen knew it was a wrongdoing. Now, is this a common problem, or was this a common problem? At the time, corporate accounting scandals were more common than they are now. Enron, WorldCom, and Tyco were all examples of companies manipulating financial records. Many firms were under the pressure to maintain their reputation and clients, leading to blurred lines between legal compliance and unethical behavior. This case helped spark the, if I'm saying this right, Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, which sets 6 stricter standards for document retention and corporate accountability, which was, that came into play after the big corporate scandal that took place in 2001, all the way until 2005. Hi.
My name is Brody Roberts, and I will be covering point 3 and 4 for the presentation for my group's case. We covered Arthur Andersen Co. versus United States, which is in regards to the Enron energy scandal. Point 3 being current events with the topic. Why is that important? Are there any court cases, legislative actions, or other laws in play? And how is the topic viewed in modern society? So with current events, there is a company, I'm not I couldn't find exactly which company rechartered or restarted Enron, but Enron is being relaunched, and a lot of people in the community or the corporate community isn't taking that very well. They're not taking it very seriously at all, just because of the reputation that Enron holds with their history with this whole case, with them being so being the precedent of all of everything that was set, with them being their accounting scandals and their corporate corruption. Couldn't get that one out. Really, all it is basically a parody as of this point right now, and they say they have a lot more to come, but they just have a bunch of merchandise and stuff that's going on with like on their website, and it says "You Got Good Energy" on it, but nothing too current involving that specifically, other than, you know, probably other accounting scandals and everything that's going on. But that gets harder and harder to find just with the new advancements in technology. This is important now because there will always be needs for laws and regulations regarding accounting scams and insider trading, especially when it goes as far as Enron's did. So a lot of people can use that to take advantage of our economic system, as well as the people that are in the companies that they could be using to take advantage of the economic system. And a lot of people could invest in the companies, which would be a big issue, and they just make an illusion of success within this company, and then when they start dumping money in investments and it doesn't go anywhere because they're not actually doing anything, that hurts a lot of people's pockets, and it makes people feel very taken advantage of. Unfortunately, there weren't any precedents to the Enron case. It is the precedent. This was right towards the end of that paper era where they had some things on computers and some things not. So within that Enron case, they were doing a lot of shredding just to try to hide the evidence of what they did with the accounting scams. So they had, you know, a mix of both. So it probably made it a lot easier to recognize the misconduct of Enron. And the Enron scandal led to this Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX, which significantly reformed the accounting and financial practices in the United States. The Enron case is specifically remembered as a case study now in most schools or most educational settings of corporate fraud and systematic corruption. It is also used to demonstrate the devastating impact of unethical leadership on employees and investors. And for this one, there's a couple of benefits and drawbacks for number 4. So one of the benefits that I pulled out was there's accountability for corporate leaders, which is something that is not seen a lot. Mostly just the people that are actively doing it, but no one really thought about who was telling them, or the thought that they could lose their job. So the CEO, Jeffrey Skilling, was sentenced to over 24 years in prison. It was reduced to 14, and a few other people were, and it sent a message that executives were not above the law. And there's financial recovery for some victims that were involved in the case, where investors and employees recovered a portion of losses through lawsuits and settlements. It was not full justice, but it was better than nothing. And legal reforms were sparked. Sarbanes-Oxley happened in 2002, which was right after that. Right after that was that court case was through, and that one brings huge benefits in the future, and that is going to help a lot with preventing stuff like that happens. And so it has a long-term benefit to prevent similar scandals. And corporate oversight improved greatly, in which public companies are now more closely monitored, especially if you're going to have public investors. They're going to want to know a lot more, and they're going to have to see what their money is going to and what's actually happening, and then audit processes and whistleblower protections are strengthened. A couple of the drawbacks is many avoided serious consequences. some of the key people that were involved in like doing what they should instead of, telling someone or reporting it, regarding banks, lawyers, accountants, received fines, but they didn't get any like criminal charges. Specifically with Arthur Andersen regarding Enron, he was convicted but later had the conviction overturned. So in this specific case with Arthur Andersen versus Enron, the Supreme Court has reversed it after he took it or appealed it to the Supreme Court. But it didn't really change anything because Enron itself had already collapsed. So he didn't have a job anymore or anything. He just didn't go to jail. Employees and investors lost big in this specific case. Thousands lost their jobs and retirement savings, pensions. Pensions, that's really about it. Thousands lost their jobs, retirement savings, pensions were gone, 401ks, all tied to Enron stock. So it all just dissipated in front of them and they were just like, I have nothing now. And then the compensation they received was very minimal compared to what they lost. And then some of the CEOs got their sentences reduced after appeal. Skilling, in one example, was released in 2019. A lot of people saw this as unfair compared to the scale of harm that was caused. This whole Enron scandal was a big old mess, I'll tell you that. And I'm glad that we have things like the Sarbanes-Oxley Act that are going to prevent that from continuing to happen on in the future. And making sure we have a tighter watch on these people that control huge corporations and not letting them take advantage of the day-to-day person that works for them.
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I want to leave with you some questions to consider on the case of Arthur Andersen versus the United States. They'll help us dig deeper into what this case means for all of us. We've recently covered the big picture, the Enron scandal, the shredding of documents by Arthur Andersen, and how the Supreme Court decided to reverse the conviction. Now, let's think about why this case is more important than just legal history. It's an opening into corporate responsibility and justice. The Arthur Andersen case is a powerful lesson in both legal precedent and corporate ethics. But its story doesn't end with the court's decision. With that in mind, I want to leave you with some key questions. Discussion question number 1. Do you believe the Supreme Court's decision to overturn the conviction was appropriate, given that Andersen had already suffered severe reputational damage? Discussion question number 2. Given that Arthur Andersen's conviction was overturned, but the firm was destroyed, is there a point at which legal vindication becomes mute? What does this say about the power of public perception? Discussion question number 3. Despite the legal reversal, can the actions of Arthur Andersen's leadership regarding document shredding be considered ethical? Why or why not? Discussion question number 4. How does the Andersen case influence modern business practices regarding document retention policies and legal compliance? Discussion question number 5. After this scandal, a new law called the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed to stop something like this from happening again. What kinds of rules do you think a law like that should include to make sure companies are honest?